My name is Garrett Walker, 32 years old, and for as long as I can remember, family vacations have been my personal nightmare. Every summer, we gather at our lake house in Michigan. A tradition that once filled me with joy. That was before my sister Rebecca and her growing family began claiming every inch of space. Year after year, I heard the same excuse. Sorry. Not enough room for you to have a bedroom. Despite my success in marketing, I remained the family afterthought, relegated to uncomfortable couches while my sister reigned supreme. Before I continue my story, where are you watching from? Drop a like and subscribe if you have ever been the family underdog. This year, though, everything changed when they suddenly needed something from me. Growing up as the younger sibling to Rebecca was never easy. The 4-year age gap between us seemed to stretch into a chasm of favoritism that I could never quite bridge. Rebecca was everything our parents valued: outgoing, athletic, and socially adept. She was captain of the volleyball team, class president, and brought home friends by the dozen. Meanwhile, I was the quiet, bookish kid who preferred computer games and reading fantasy novels to team sports and parties. Our childhood home in suburban Detroit was technically equal in terms of room size and privileges. But the atmosphere always made it clear who the star of the family was. Rebecca got a car on her 16th birthday. I got driving lessons and permission to use the family sedan occasionally when I turned 16. Small differences, perhaps, but they accumulated over the years like sediment in a riverbed, gradually altering the course of our family dynamic. The lakeside cabin tradition began when I was 15 and Rebecca was 19. My parents, Daniel and Margaret Walker, had just purchased a modest 4-bedroom cabin on Lake Huron. The property wasn't fancy, just a rustic wooden structure with a small dock and incredible sunset views, but it represented my parents' lifelong dream of having a vacation home. That first summer was actually pretty great. Rebecca brought one friend, I brought one friend, and we all had our own spaces. The sleeping arrangements were simple back then. My parents took the master bedroom with its attached bathroom. Rebecca and her friend took the second largest bedroom, I had the third bedroom, and my friend took the smallest 4th bedroom. We spent days swimming, fishing, and evenings playing board games. It felt like those perfect family vacations you see in movies, the kind where everyone gets along and creates lasting memories. Then everything changed when Rebecca met Marcus during her sophomore year of college. They married young, when she was just 22, fresh out of college with a teaching degree. I was 18 then, just starting my freshman year at University of Michigan with dreams of making it in the business world. Our parents were ecstatic about the wedding, though I overheard my mom once telling her friend she wished I would find someone and settle down early like Rebecca. The shift in our family dynamic became more pronounced when Rebecca announced her first pregnancy barely a year after the wedding. My nephew Liam was born when I was 19. Still focused on my studies and internships, the level of doting that occurred was unlike anything I had ever witnessed. My parents transformed overnight into the most enthusiastic grandparents imaginable. They converted their home office into a nursery, bought duplicates of baby equipment for their house, and suddenly every conversation revolved around Liam. I continued pursuing my education, earning my business degree and then an MBA, landing a good entry-level marketing position at a respected firm in Chicago. I worked 60-hour weeks, climbing the corporate ladder while trying to maintain some connection to my family. During this time, Rebecca had her second child, Emma, further cementing her status as the golden child who was giving them grandchildren. During family gatherings, the contrast became increasingly clear. Rebecca and her growing family were the main characters, while I was treated as a supporting actor at best, an extra at worst. Comments like, "When are you going to settle down?" and "Your biological clock is ticking, you know," became standard fare at family dinners, even though I was only in my mid-20s. What hurt most wasn't the favoritism itself. I had grown accustomed to that, but the implicit suggestion that my achievements meant less than Rebecca's traditional life choices. I had graduated with honors, secured a position at a prestigious company, and was financially independent. Yet my parents still introduced Rebecca first at family gatherings and spent more time discussing her children than asking about my career milestones. As the years passed, I noticed the pattern extending to our annual lake house vacations. What had once been a relatively equal distribution of space and attention gradually became skewed heavily in Rebecca's favor, setting the stage for years of frustration that I was too conflict-averse to address. The real trouble began the summer after Rebecca had her second child. Emma was just 6 months old, and Liam had recently turned 3. I had just received my first promotion at work and was excited to share the news with my family during our annual lake house vacation. I arrived Friday evening, later than everyone else due to work commitments, carrying gifts for the kids and a bottle of expensive champagne to celebrate my promotion. As I pulled up to the cabin, I immediately noticed Rebecca's minivan and my parents' SUV parked in the driveway. The lights were on, and I could hear laughter from inside. When I entered carrying my suitcase and bags of gifts, everyone was gathered in the living room. My mom jumped up to greet me with a quick hug before immediately turning her attention back to Emma, who was being bounced on Marcus's knee. "There he is!" Uncle Garrett finally made it. My dad called out, without getting up from his armchair where he was reading a picture book to Liam. "Sorry I'm late," I said, setting down my bags. Traffic leaving Chicago was terrible. Where should I put my stuff? There was an awkward pause before my mother answered. "Well, we've had to make some adjustments to the sleeping arrangements this year," she began, exchanging glances with my father. "Your father and I are in the master bedroom, of course. Rebecca, Marcus, and Emma are in the second bedroom because the baby needs to be close to them during the night." I nodded, assuming I'd take the third bedroom as usual. "And we've given Liam the third bedroom," she continued, "because he's on a strict sleep schedule, and Rebecca says he needs his own space for proper routine. He's been having some behavioral issues when his sleep is disrupted." I stood there, still holding my suitcase handle, waiting for her to continue. When she didn't, I asked, "So, where am I sleeping? We've made up the pull-out couch for you." My father interjected, "I know it's not ideal, but there's just not enough room for everyone to have privacy. You understand, right? The kids have to come first." I looked over at the living room pull-out couch, the very room where everyone was currently gathered watching TV, the room that was the central hub of the cabin, where people would be walking through from 7 in the morning until midnight. I guess that works," I said, trying to hide my disappointment. "Just for clarification, we have 4 bedrooms and 5 adults plus 2 kids, right? And I'm the only one without a bedroom?" Rebecca spoke up then, bouncing Emma on her hip. "Garrett, don't be difficult. You're just one person. Liam needs consistency, and we can't have him waking up Emma during the night. He's going through a phase." "I'm not being difficult. I just thought. We thought you'd be a team player," Marcus interrupted. "It's just for a week. Unless you want to make Liam sleep out here? He's 3. Put that way, I felt cornered. How could I argue without seeming like I was valuing my comfort over a toddler's? Still, something felt fundamentally unfair about the arrangement. Why did Rebecca's entire family get 3 out of 4 bedrooms while I, an equal member of the family, got none? That first night was miserable. I had to wait until everyone went to bed around 11:30 before I could even make up the pull-out couch. The mattress was thin, with a metal bar that dug into my back, and I could hear every creak from upstairs where people were still moving around. In the morning, I was awakened at 6:30 when my father came downstairs to make coffee, flipping on lights and rattling dishes while I tried to sleep. "Oh, sorry," he said insincerely when he noticed me pulling a pillow over my head. "Forgot you were sleeping there. Might as well get up now though, right? Early bird gets the worm." Throughout that week, I tried several times to discuss the arrangement. Maybe we could rotate who gets bedrooms? I suggested one evening. Or perhaps Liam could sleep in his parents' room some nights so I could have a real bed occasionally? These suggestions were met with responses ranging from dismissive, "Don't be silly, we can't disrupt Liam's routine," to guilt-inducing, "We only get to see the grandkids a few times a year." Garrett, you can make this small sacrifice for family. Rebecca's sense of entitlement was palpable. She acted as though the lake house existed primarily for her family's enjoyment. Scheduling activities without consulting me, deciding meal times based solely on her children's schedules, and treating me more like a visiting guest than a co-equal family member. Our parents enabled this behavior at every turn. When Rebecca declared that swimming would happen between 10 and noon because that's when the kids are most energetic, no one considered that I might want to use the lake at a different time. When she insisted the TV could only play children's shows during the day because adult content isn't appropriate around the kids, my parents nodded along. Despite the fact that I wanted to catch a playoff game I'd been looking forward to for weeks. By the end of that vacation, I was exhausted, frustrated, and felt more distant from my family than ever. As I packed my car to leave, my mother approached me with a hug. "Thanks for being so understanding about the room situation," she said. "Next year will be different, I promise." I nodded, wanting to believe her, but something in my gut told me this was the new normal. I was right. Over the next 5 years, the pattern not only continued but worsened with each passing summer. Rebecca's family expanded again with the birth of her third child, Aiden, when I was 27. By this point, I had advanced to senior marketing director at my company, had purchased a beautiful condo in downtown Chicago, and was financially more successful than anyone else in the family. Yet each summer, the same scenario played out with increasingly thin excuses. One year it was, "Liam has nightmares in unfamiliar settings." The next it was, "Emma has separation anxiety." Then, "Aiden is a light sleeper." The pull-out couch remained my designated spot. Despite the fact that I now suffered from back pain for days after sleeping on it. During this period, my career continued to flourish. I led successful campaigns for major clients, received substantial bonuses, and built a reputation in the Chicago marketing scene. I often paid for family meals when we went out during vacation, bought expensive gifts for my niece and nephews, and even funded a new dock for the lake house one year as a family gift. None of this seemed to elevate my status when it came to sleeping arrangements or consideration of my preferences. The summer I was 29, I decided to bring my girlfriend Jessica to the lake house. We had been dating for about 6 months, and I thought it was time to introduce her to my family. I called my parents weeks in advance to let them know. "Mom, I'm bringing Jessica to the lake this year. We'll need sleeping arrangements." There was a pause on the line. "Oh, that's wonderful. Honey, we're excited to meet her." "Great," I said. "So we'll need one of the bedrooms." Another pause. "Well, the thing is, Garrett, we've already sorted out the rooms. Your father and I have the master, Rebecca and Marcus have the second bedroom with Aiden, Liam has the third bedroom, and Emma has the fourth. But the pull-out couch is queen-sized. You and Jessica will be fine there." My heart sank. "Mom, I can't ask Jessica to sleep on a pull-out couch in the middle of the living room. There's no privacy. People walk through starting at 6 in the morning. It's only for a week, honey. Everyone makes sacrifices during family vacations." "But why am I always the only one making this particular sacrifice?" I asked, frustration evident in my voice. "Don't be dramatic, Garrett. The children need stability. You're an adult." When I told Jessica about the sleeping arrangement, she was understandably concerned. "We won't have any privacy? At all?" "Not really," I admitted. "And we'll have to wait until everyone goes to bed to even pull out the couch." Jessica was a good sport during the vacation, but I could tell she was uncomfortable. She whispered to me on the third night, after we'd been woken up at dawn by my nephew running through the living room. "Does your family always treat you like this?" Like you're less important? Her observation stung because it confirmed what I had felt for years but tried to ignore. The issue wasn't just about a bed, it was about respect and equal treatment. Throughout that week, Jessica witnessed the subtle and not so subtle ways my family diminished my standing. Rebecca's children were given first choice for all activities. My suggestions for day trips were overruled in favor of kid-friendly options, even at mealtimes. The children's preferences dictated the menu, while my request for one seafood dinner at a lakeside cabin was deemed too complicated. The breaking point came during a conversation Jessica overheard between Rebecca and my mother. They were in the kitchen, unaware that Jessica was reading on the porch just outside the window. "Garrett seems a bit moody this trip," my mother said. "He's always been sensitive," Rebecca replied. "Remember how he used to lock himself in his room when he didn't get his way as a kid? I think he's upset about the sleeping arrangements." "Oh, please," Rebecca scoffed. "He and Jessica are just dating. It's not like they're married with children. They don't need privacy the way Marcus and I do. Garrett has always been selfish about these things." Jessica was furious on my behalf when she told me about this conversation. "They're calling you selfish? After you paid for dinner twice this week and spent 3 hours helping your dad fix the boat? While your sister contributes nothing?" A month after that disastrous vacation, Jessica and I broke up. While the lake house incident wasn't the only reason, she cited my family dynamic as a concern. "You let them walk all over you," she said during our final conversation. "And I worry that's how you'll let others treat you too. You need to stand up for yourself, Garrett." Her words haunted me long after our relationship ended. But I still couldn't bring myself to directly confront my family. Years of conditioning had left me perpetually trying to prove my worth, always hoping that if I was successful enough, generous enough, or accommodating enough, they would finally see me as Rebecca's equal. Instead, each year I found myself growing more resentful while outwardly maintaining the role of easygoing, accommodating Uncle Garrett. I told myself it was easier this way, that confrontation would only make things worse. But inside, something was building, a realization that this pattern would never change unless I changed it. Last summer marked a turning point in my family saga. I was 31. Newly promoted to Director of Client Strategy at my firm, and despite my better judgment, I had agreed to attend the annual lake house vacation once again. Rebecca's family had expanded yet again, 4 children now, with the addition of little Zoe, just 18 months old. I arrived at the cabin with low expectations but was still blindsided by the latest sleeping arrangement. Not only was I assigned the pull-out couch again, but the room allocation had reached new heights of absurdity. "We've moved things around a bit this year," my father explained as he helped me bring my bags in from the car. "Your mother and I are taking the smallest bedroom." "Oh?" I said, momentarily hopeful that perhaps this meant I would finally get one of the larger rooms. "Yes. Rebecca and Marcus have the master with baby Zoe, of course. Liam and Aiden are sharing the second bedroom, and Emma gets the third bedroom to herself because, well, she's a girl and needs her privacy now that she's 9. I stopped in my tracks. "Let me get this straight. You and Mom have given up your bedroom, moved to a smaller room. And I'm still on the pull-out couch? Even though there are now 4 bedrooms and only 3 couples?" My father had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. "Well, Emma can't share with her brothers, and Rebecca says the boys need their own space too because Liam is starting to want privacy. He's 11 now. And what about my privacy, Dad? I'm 31. He patted my shoulder in that patronizing way that made me feel like a child. "It's just a week, son. Family is about sacrifice." That first evening, I made an effort to be positive despite my frustration. I had brought expensive gifts for everyone, a designer purse for my mother, fishing gear for my dad, toys for the kids, and even a spa gift certificate for Rebecca. I also arrived with groceries for the week, including premium steaks and local wine, spending over $400 to contribute to the vacation. The response to my generosity was tepid at best. Brief thanks were murmured before conversation turned back to the children's recent achievements. When I mentioned my promotion at work, my mother nodded distractedly while helping Emma with her iPad, and my father said, "That's nice, son," before asking Marcus about his fantasy football league. The sleeping situation proved even worse than previous years. The pull-out mattress had deteriorated further, with springs that dug into my back regardless of position. Being in the central living area meant I had no place to retreat when I needed quiet time. Early each morning, I was awakened by nieces and nephews watching cartoons at high volume. At night, I had to wait until everyone finished their evening activities before I could even make up my bed. By the third day, I was suffering from serious back pain and sleep deprivation. I tried to find moments to enjoy, taking the kids fishing, helping my mother prepare meals, swimming in the lake during the brief windows when it wasn't dominated by my sister's family. But these moments were overshadowed by the constant reminder of my place in the family hierarchy. The breaking point came when I overheard a conversation between Rebecca and Marcus. I had gone outside to take a work call and was returning through the side door when I heard my name. "Garrett seems irritable this trip," Marcus was saying. "He's always been the sensitive one." Rebecca replied, the exact phrase she had used years before. "Mom says he's been complaining about the pull-out couch again." "Well, it does look pretty uncomfortable," Marcus admitted. "Please," Rebecca scoffed. "He doesn't need a real room, he's just one person. And it's not like he has a wife or kids to consider. He can suck it up for a week so the people with actual families can be comfortable." The phrase, actual families, hit me like a physical blow. In Rebecca's mind, and apparently my parents as well, my life as a single person was somehow less valid, less deserving of consideration than hers as a parent. Throughout the week, other slights accumulated. I volunteered to cook several dinners, spend hours entertaining the kids so the other adults could relax, and even took my nephews fishing so Marcus could have me time. Yet there was no reciprocity, no acknowledgement of my contributions, and certainly no offer to trade sleeping arrangements even for a night. The final straw came on the last evening of vacation. My mother wanted a family photo for the annual Christmas card and arranged us all on the dock at sunset. After taking several group shots, she asked, "Now let's get one with just Rebecca, Marcus, and the kids." I stood awkwardly to the side as they posed, my mother snapping multiple photos and exclaiming, "Perfect. These will be beautiful holiday cards." When I asked, "Do you want one with me in it too?" my mother replied absently, "Oh, these are mainly for the grandkids, you know. But we can take one with you too, I suppose." That offhand comment, the casual dismissal of my place in the family, crystallized everything I had been feeling for years. The additional photo with me was taken as an afterthought. My mother checking her watch immediately after, clearly ready to move on. The drive back to Chicago the next day was a solitary 8 hours of reflection. I thought about Jessica's words from years ago about standing up for myself. I thought about how I had achieved success in every area of my life except this one. I couldn't seem to command basic respect from my own family. Something had to change. And I finally accepted that the change had to come from me. No one was going to suddenly recognize my worth if I continued accepting scraps of consideration and affection. When my mother called a week later to discuss getting dates on the calendar for next year's lake house trip, I was non-committal for the first time ever. "I'm not sure about my schedule next summer, Mom. Let me get back to you." Her surprised silence spoke volumes. She had expected automatic agreement. The same doormat compliance I had always provided. Her confusion only reinforced my growing resolve. "Well, don't wait too long to decide," she said finally. "Rebecca needs to request her vacation days early." Of course. Rebecca's schedule remained the priority. But this time, instead of feeling hurt, I felt something new, determination. The year that followed became one of profound transformation in my life. The lake house epiphany sparked a series of changes that extended far beyond my family relationships. First came the career advancement. The client strategy campaign I had developed earned our firm industry recognition and brought in 3 major new accounts. My boss called me into his office in September, just a month after the disastrous family vacation. "Garrett, the board was impressed with the Henderson campaign results. We'd like to offer you the position of Vice President of Marketing Strategy." The promotion came with a substantial salary increase, an expanded team under my leadership, and a level of professional respect I had worked years to achieve. When I called my parents to share the news, my father's response was telling. "That's wonderful, son. Speaking of news, did you know Liam made the travel soccer team? First one in the family to play at that level." The immediate pivot to my nephew's achievement would have crushed me in the past. This time, I simply noted it as confirmation that my family dynamic needed to change. With my increased financial stability, I made a decision that would ultimately shift the power balance in my family. Lake Huron had always been special to me despite the negative vacation experiences. During a weekend trip to clear my head in October, I discovered a lakefront property for sale just 3 miles from my parents' cabin. The house was everything their cabin wasn't: modern, spacious, with 6 bedrooms, a home theater, gourmet kitchen, and a private dock with deeper water for better boating. The price was steep but within my means given my new position. After touring it twice and running the numbers, I made an offer. By December, I was the proud owner of a luxury lake house. I hired contractors to update several bathrooms, add a hot tub on the deck overlooking the water, and install a state-of-the-art entertainment system. Unlike my parents' cabin with its limited amenities and cramped quarters, my new property offered space and comfort for everyone. Interestingly, I told no one in my family about this purchase. It wasn't meant as a secret exactly, but I wanted to establish this place as mine first, without their input or assumptions about its purpose. This was about creating a space where I set the rules and determined who was welcome and under what conditions. As winter turned to spring, I found myself developing in other ways too. For years, my family had relied on me for various forms of support: financial assistance when Rebecca's minivan needed repairs, technical help with my parents' computer issues, even regular handyman tasks around their homes. I had always dropped everything to help, often at considerable inconvenience to myself. I began establishing healthier boundaries. When my sister called asking if I could loan her $2,000 for summer camp fees for the kids, I politely declined. "I'm not in a position to do that right now, Rebecca." "Have you looked into payment plans with the camp?" Her shock was palpable through the phone. "But you just got a big promotion. I know you have the money." "Having money and being able to give it away are different things," I replied calmly. "I have financial commitments of my own." Similar boundaries went up around my time and emotional availability. I stopped answering family calls during work hours. I began declining some weekend requests for help, suggesting professional services instead. "I can't drive up to fix Dad's deck this Saturday, but I'm happy to recommend the contractor I've used." These small acts of self-respect were surprisingly difficult at first. Decades of people-pleasing habits didn't disappear overnight. To help navigate this unfamiliar territory, I started seeing a therapist who specialized in family dynamics. Dr. Elaine Matthews helped me understand the roots of our family's dysfunctional patterns. "Your parents established early on that Rebecca's needs superseded yours," she explained during one session. "And you've reinforced that pattern by accepting it. Change will be uncomfortable for everyone because you're disrupting the family system." She was right. My mother's calls became more frequent and increasingly guilt-laden as I established boundaries. "We hardly hear from you anymore," she would say. "Your father and I aren't getting any younger, you know." In the past, such comments would have sent me spiraling into guilt and compliance. Now I could recognize them as manipulation tactics and respond accordingly. I know family is important, Mom. That's why I'm working to build healthier relationships with all of you. Another significant change came in my social life. I had always prioritized work over personal relationships, partly because success seemed the only way to earn my family's approval. Now I invested time in building friendships with people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. Through a colleague, I joined a recreational sailing club on Lake Michigan and discovered a passion for the sport. The group included men and women of various ages who shared interests in outdoor activities and good conversation. For the first time in years, I found myself part of a social circle where I felt truly seen and appreciated. It was through the sailing club that I met Sofia Garcia, a pediatric surgeon with a wicked sense of humor and a refreshing directness. Our friendship evolved naturally into dating, and unlike previous relationships where I had hidden my family issues, I was open with Sofia from the start. "They sound like characters from a bad sitcom," she remarked after hearing about my years of lake house exile. "Except not funny," I replied. "No," she agreed, taking my hand. "Not funny at all. But you know what is amazing? How you've managed to become such a kind, generous person despite that treatment." Her perspective, seeing strength rather than weakness in my history, helped me recognize my own resilience. Sofia encouraged my boundary setting while also gently challenging me when old people-pleasing habits emerged. "You don't have to earn love," she reminded me often. "Real love doesn't come with conditions." By the time May rolled around, I had created a life that felt authentically mine. My lake house renovations were complete. My relationship with Sofia was thriving, and I had developed a newfound confidence in my interactions with family. When my mother called to finalize plans for the annual lake house vacation, assuming as always that I would arrange my schedule around everyone else's, I was prepared. "Actually, Mom, I won't be joining you at the cabin this year," I said firmly. "I have other plans for that week." The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought we might have been disconnected. "Other plans?" she finally repeated, as though the concept was utterly foreign. "But it's our family vacation. We always go to the lake house the third week of July. I understand that's the tradition. But it won't work for me this year. But everyone will be so disappointed. The kids look forward to seeing their Uncle Garrett. The guilt trip was as predictable as it was ineffective. I'm sure they'll have a wonderful time regardless. Give everyone my love." I ended the call feeling lighter than I had in years. For once, I had prioritized my own needs without apologizing or making excuses. It was a small victory, but a significant one. What I didn't know then was that this act of self-respect was about to set in motion a dramatic shift in our family dynamic, one that would come to a head sooner than I expected. 2 weeks before the scheduled family vacation, my phone rang with my mother's ringtone. I was in my Chicago office, reviewing quarterly marketing reports, and almost sent the call to voicemail. Something made me answer instead. "Garrett, sweetheart." My mother's voice was unusually bright, almost effusive. "How are you doing? We haven't talked properly in ages." The forced cheerfulness immediately put me on alert. This wasn't her guilt trip voice or her distracted half-listening tone. This was her "I need a favor" voice. One I recognized from years of experience. "I'm fine, Mom. Busy with work. Is everything okay?" "Oh, everything's, well, actually, we've had a bit of a situation with the lake house." Her voice dropped its artificial brightness. "There was a storm last weekend, and a large tree branch fell on part of the roof. There's water damage in 2 of the bedrooms and the living room." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, genuinely concerned. "Is insurance covering the repairs?" "Yes, but that's not the problem. The contractor says the repairs won't be completed until early August. Our vacation is scheduled to start next Friday." I leaned back in my chair, suddenly understanding where this conversation was heading. "That's unfortunate timing," I said neutrally. "Yes. It's just terrible. Rebecca's children have been counting down the days. Liam even made a paper chain calendar. They'll be heartbroken if we have to cancel. She paused meaningfully. Which is why I was thinking. I waited, forcing her to actually articulate the request rather than assuming my compliance as usual. Well, I remembered that you mentioned something about having a place at the lake now. I didn't realize you meant you had purchased a property there. Your father ran into Bill Thompson at the hardware store. And Bill mentioned selling his lakefront home to you last year. Why didn't you tell us? The note of hurt in her voice was rich, coming from someone who had consistently dismissed my accomplishments. It never came up, I said simply. So what were you thinking, Mom? Another pause. Well, since you have that big house sitting empty, and our cabin is uninhabitable, we thought perhaps we could still have our family vacation. At your place? There it was. After years of relegating me to a pull-out couch and treating me as an afterthought. They now needed something from me, something significant. I see, I said, taking a moment to process the audacity of the request. There was no acknowledgement of past unfairness. No recognition that they were asking for a substantial favor. Just the assumption that of course I would say yes, because I always did. It would just be for the usual week, she continued, filling my silence. Everything else would be the same as always. We've already bought all the food and planned the activities. Everything the same as always, I repeated slowly. Including the sleeping arrangements? Well, of course we'd defer to you on that since it's your house, she said quickly. Though the children do need consistency. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. Rebecca. I almost laughed at the coordination. Mom, Rebecca is calling me. I'm guessing about the same topic? Oh. Yes. She's very concerned about the vacation plans. Why don't you talk to her and call me back? I switched calls, bracing myself for the manipulation tactics that had worked on me for years. Garrett. Rebecca's voice held the same forced brightness our mothers had. How's my successful brother doing? I'm well, Rebecca. Mom just told me about the cabin. Isn't it awful? After all our planning, the kids are going to be devastated if we cancel. Liam has been talking about fishing with his uncle for weeks. Interesting how I was suddenly the beloved uncle when something was needed from me. That's actually why I'm calling. She continued without waiting for my response. Mom says you have a place on the lake now? Some kind of vacation home? I bought a house there last year, yes? Well, that's just perfect timing. We could move our vacation there instead of canceling. The kids wouldn't even know the difference. I took a deep breath. Rebecca, you do understand you're asking to use my personal home for a week? With your entire family? Her tone shifted slightly. Well, yes, but it's family vacation. You were planning to take that week off anyway, right? And Mom says your place is huge, 6 bedrooms. There would finally be room for everyone to have their own space. Including me? I couldn't resist asking. What do you mean? Would there be a bedroom for me in my own house? Or would I be on a couch again? There was a moment of confused silence before she laughed awkwardly. Don't be silly, Garrett. Of course you'd have a bedroom. It's your house. Although the master suite would probably make most sense for Mom and Dad since they're the oldest. And there it was. Even in my own home. She was already planning to relegate me to a lesser position. Some patterns ran deep indeed. I need to think about this, Rebecca. I'll get back to you. What's there to think about? Her voice took on an edge I recognized, the tone she used when she wasn't getting her way. It's just a week, and you weren't even planning to use the house then. The kids will be crushed if we cancel. Zoe's been practicing saying lake all month. The emotional manipulation was so transparent it almost made me laugh. Nevertheless, I need to consider it. I'll call you tomorrow. I ended the call despite her protests and sat back in my chair, thoughts swirling. Part of me wanted to refuse outright. to let them experience the disappointment I had felt year after year. Another part saw an opportunity for something more constructive, a chance to reset our family dynamic on my terms. That evening, I discussed the situation with Sophia over dinner at her apartment. "So let me get this straight," she said, refilling our wine glasses. "After years of treating you like the family afterthought, they're now asking to use your luxury lake house because their cabin is damaged? That's about the size of it," I confirmed. "And you're considering saying yes?" Her raised eyebrow conveyed her skepticism. "I'm considering it with conditions," I clarified. "Very specific conditions." Sophia tilted her head. "I'm listening." "First, I would be in the master bedroom, with you, if you're willing to join us for the week. Second, a written schedule for kitchen use and shared spaces that gives everyone equal consideration. Third, an explicit acknowledgement from everyone that the previous arrangements were unfair." Sophia smiled slowly. "You want them to admit they were wrong. I want them to recognize the pattern." I corrected. "This isn't about revenge. It's about establishing a new family dynamic based on mutual respect." She reached across the table to take my hand. "I'm proud of you, you know that? A year ago you would have just said yes and ended up miserable. A year ago I was still trying to earn their approval," I admitted. "Now I just want honest relationships." The next day, I also discussed the situation with Dr. Matthews during our therapy session. "This is a significant opportunity," she noted. "Not for retribution, but for growth, both yours and potentially your family's." "Do you think there's any chance they'll actually change?" I asked. "People can surprise you when the circumstances shift dramatically enough," she said. "But regardless of their response, you've already changed. You're approaching this from a position of strength and self-respect, not desperation for approval." With these conversations bolstering my resolve, I called my sister the following evening. "I've thought about your request," I told her without preamble. "I'm willing to host a family vacation at my lake house, but I have some conditions." "Conditions?" She sounded surprised, as though the concept of me setting terms was foreign. "Yes. First, Sophia and I will be taking the master bedroom. That's non-negotiable." "Sophia? Who's Sophia?" "My girlfriend, whom none of you have bothered to ask about in our recent conversations." "Oh. Well, that's nice. But Mom and Dad always take the master bedroom. It's tradition. Not in my house," I said firmly. "Second condition, we establish a written schedule for kitchen use, lake activities, and television time that gives everyone equal consideration." "A written schedule?" "Garrett, we're family, not roommates." "Exactly. Families should treat each other with equal respect, which brings me to my third condition. I want acknowledgement from everyone that the previous vacation arrangements were unfair to me." There was a long silence before Rebecca responded, her voice tight. "So you're holding our vacation hostage unless we apologize to you? That seems petty. I'm offering my home as a solution to your problem, with reasonable expectations for how I'll be treated in return." "That's not petty, it's healthy boundary setting. The kids are going to be so disappointed." She tried again. "That's entirely up to you," I replied calmly. "My offer stands with those conditions. Let me know what you decide." I ended the call feeling a strange mixture of anxiety and empowerment. For the first time in our adult relationship, I had clearly stated my needs without apologizing or backing down. The next 48 hours passed without word from any family member. I assumed they were discussing their options, perhaps looking for alternative vacation spots. I went about my work and evening plans with Sophia, refusing to obsess over their potential response. On the third day, my phone rang. It was my father, an unexpected development, as he rarely called me directly. "Garrett," he said, his voice gruffer than usual. "Your mother told me about your requirements for using your lake house." "Yes?" I waited, curious which direction he would take this conversation. There was a heavy sigh. I've been thinking about what you said. About the previous arrangements being unfair. This was not what I had expected. And I think you might have a point. We've been taking you for granted, son. For a long time, it seems. The simple acknowledgement, coming from my stoic father, felt momentous. Thank you for saying that, Dad. Rebecca and your mother may take more convincing. He continued. But I want you to know I see it now. And I'm sorry. My throat tightened unexpectedly. That means a lot. So, about this vacation, are your terms still on the table? They are, I confirmed. Then we accept. All of us. I'll make sure of it. As I hung up, I felt something shift inside me, a weight lifting that I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying all these years. This vacation would be different. I would be different. And just maybe, my family would be too. The morning my family was scheduled to arrive at my lake house. I stood on the sprawling deck overlooking the water, coffee in hand, feeling a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. Sophia squeezed my arm reassuringly. Remember, this is your home. You set the tone here. I nodded, appreciating her steadfast support. We had arrived 2 days earlier to prepare the house and establish our presence. The master bedroom was clearly occupied with our belongings. I had posted the activity schedule on the refrigerator, and welcome baskets with house rules were placed in each guest room. At precisely 11 a.m., 2 vehicles pulled into the circular driveway, my parents' SUV followed by Rebecca's minivan. I watched from the deck as they emerged. Their expressions a mixture of curiosity and awe as they took in the impressive property. Uncle Garrett! Liam called out, being the first to spot me. At 11. He was at that awkward pre-teen stage, but his enthusiasm seemed genuine as he waved vigorously. I descended the steps to greet them, Sophia by my side. Welcome to Pine Lake Lodge, I said, using the name I'd given my property. My mother approached first, embracing me stiffly. Garrett, this is quite a place you have here. Thank you, I replied simply, not feeling the need to explain or justify my success as I might have in the past. I introduced Sophia to everyone, noting with satisfaction how my father made a point of shaking her hand warmly. Pleasure to meet the woman who's been making my son so happy. Rebecca was less effusive, offering a tight smile to Sophia before turning to me. The house is beautiful, Garrett. Much bigger than I expected. Let me show you all around and get you settled in your rooms, I offered. The tour elicited gasps and exclamations as I showed them the gourmet kitchen, the home theater room, the expansive living area with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, and the private dock with my new speedboat. This must have cost a fortune, my mother murmured as we ascended the floating staircase to the bedroom level. I've been fortunate in my career, I said simply. The room assignments were the first test of our new dynamic. I showed my parents to the blue room, spacious and comfortable with a queen bed and attached bathroom, but clearly not the master suite. This will be your room for the week, I said, gesturing to the welcome basket containing plush robes, artisanal soaps, and a printed copy of the house rules and schedule. My mother's eyes flicked toward the closed door at the end of the hall, the master suite, but she simply nodded. This is lovely, thank you. Rebecca, Marcus, and baby Zoe were given the green room with an attached nursery area. Liam and Aiden shared the bunk room, which I had equipped with video games and beanbag chairs. Emma was delighted with the princess room, featuring a canopy bed. And of course, Sophia and I are in the master suite. I concluded the tour, leaving no room for discussion. The first evening revealed old habits die hard. As we gathered in the kitchen to prepare dinner, Rebecca automatically began issuing directions. Mom, you start the salad. Marcus, get the grill going. Garrett, could you set the table? I'll handle the main dish. I cleared my throat. Actually, Rebecca, if you check the schedule. You'll see Sophia and I are preparing dinner tonight. We're doing grilled salmon with asparagus. You and Marcus are on cleanup duty afterward. Rebecca blinked in surprise. Oh. I just assumed. The schedule is posted on the refrigerator. I reminded her gently but firmly. Everyone takes turns cooking and cleaning. It's more fair that way. My father, surprisingly, was the first to adapt. Sounds reasonable to me. What can I do to help, Garrett? You and Mom can relax on the deck with some wine. Dinner will be ready in about 45 minutes. Throughout that first evening, there were several moments of adjustment as my family encountered the new boundaries. When Emma automatically reached for the television remote after dinner, my mother began to say, "Emma, let Uncle Garrett choose the show since it's his house." I interjected. Actually, according to the schedule, adults have TV choice from 8 to 10 p.m. The kids had their television time from 6 to 8. Emma pouted. But I always watched my shows after dinner. Not this vacation, sweetie, I said kindly but firmly. Everyone gets fair time with the TV here. My niece looked to her mother for the usual intervention, but Rebecca, after a moment's hesitation, surprised me. Uncle Garrett's house. Uncle Garrett's rules, Emma? Why don't you try one of those board games in the game room instead? It was a small moment, but a significant one. Rebecca had backed my authority rather than undermining it. The real test came on the third day when the inevitable conflict arose over lake activities. I had scheduled a morning boat ride for anyone interested, followed by open swim time. Rebecca approached me at breakfast, speaking in a low voice. Garrett, we need to adjust the lake schedule today. Liam has been looking forward to fishing, but your boat ride is during prime fishing time. The old Garrett would have immediately conceded. The new one responded differently. The schedule was set with everyone in mind, Rebecca. The boat ride is only for an hour and a half. Fishing can happen afterward. But the fish won't be biting as well then, she persisted. Can't you move your boat ride to the afternoon? No, I said simply. But Liam is welcome to fish from the dock while we're out on the boat if he prefers. Rebecca's face flushed with the familiar signs of frustration at not getting her way. I don't understand why you're being so rigid about this. It's just a schedule. Exactly, I agreed. It's just a schedule, one designed to give everyone fair access to activities. Including me. She opened her mouth to argue further but was interrupted by Marcus placing a hand on her shoulder. Beck, remember our agreement, he said quietly. Garrett's being more than generous hosting us. I watched with interest as my sister visibly struggled with herself before nodding curtly. Fine. We'll fish later. That evening I overheard my mother and Rebecca talking on the deck. Unaware I was approaching with a tray of desserts. He's changed, my mother was saying. I barely recognize him sometimes. I know, Rebecca agreed. He used to be so accommodating. Do you think we took advantage of that? My mother's question surprised me. There was a long pause before Rebecca answered. Maybe. Probably. Yes. I cleared my throat as I stepped onto the deck, and both women turned with startled expressions. Dessert is served, I said, pretending I hadn't heard their conversation. The middle of the week brought an unexpected rainstorm, confining everyone to the house for a full day. In the past, such close quarters would have led to friction and, inevitably, me getting the short end of whatever compromise was reached. This time, the schedule proved its worth as everyone had assigned times for using the home theater, game room, and quiet reading spaces. I found my father in the study during his designated quiet time, reading a thriller in one of the leather armchairs. This is quite a system you've worked out, he commented as I browsed the bookshelf. Runs like clockwork. It seems to be working, I agreed. He set his book down, removing his reading glasses. You know, son, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about the previous arrangements being unfair. I turned to face him, giving him my full attention. I didn't see it then, he continued. Or maybe I did and found it easier to go along with what Rebecca wanted. She's always been forceful about her needs. Yes, she has, I agreed. But that doesn't excuse how we treated you. Year after year, putting you on that damn pull-out couch. He shook his head. I'm sorry, Garrett. Truly. The simple apology, delivered without excuses or qualifications, meant more than I could express. Thank you, Dad. That means a lot. On the second to last day of vacation, I organized a sunset cruise on my boat for the entire family. As we glided across the lake, the golden light bathing everything in a warm glow, I observed the subtle shifts in our family dynamic. My mother, instead of focusing exclusively on her grandchildren, engaged Sophia in genuine conversation about her work as a surgeon. Rebecca helped serve drinks rather than expecting to be served. My father asked thoughtful questions about my recent projects at work. Later that evening, after the children were in bed, I called everyone together in the living room. I wanted to thank you all for respecting the house rules this week, I began. I know it was an adjustment. Rebecca spoke up, surprising me. Actually, I think we should be thanking you, Garrett. Not just for letting us use your amazing house, but for putting up with our behavior all these years. The room fell silent as everyone turned to look at her. I've been thinking about those vacations at Mom and Dad's cabin, she continued. And I realize now how unfair we were to you. Always giving you the pull-out couch. Never considering your preferences. She met my gaze directly. I'm sorry. We treated you like you were less important because you didn't have children, and that was wrong. My mother dabbed at her eyes. We did take you for granted, darling. I think we just got so used to you accommodating everyone else that we stopped seeing how unbalanced things had become. I appreciate that, I said, genuinely moved by their acknowledgments. This week wasn't about punishing anyone or getting revenge. It was about establishing a new way of interacting, one based on mutual respect. Well, I think we've all learned something, my father said, raising his glass. To new beginnings and better understanding. As we clinked glasses, I felt a profound sense of resolution. The years of resentment and hurt began to dissolve, replaced by something healthier, not perfect, but honest. On departure day, the goodbye hugs were warmer, the thank yous more genuine. As my parents prepared to leave, my mother held my hands in hers. This has been our best family vacation in years, she said sincerely. Thank you for hosting us, but more importantly, thank you for teaching us how to be a better family. After everyone had departed, Sophia and I sat on the deck watching the lake sparkle in the afternoon sun. You did it, she said, leaning against my shoulder. You changed a lifetime of family patterns in 1 week. We'll see if it lasts, I replied, though I was hopeful. But regardless, I've changed. And that's what matters most. The truth is, setting boundaries isn't about controlling others, it's about honoring yourself. For years, I had participated in my own mistreatment by never saying no, never demanding the respect I deserved. In trying to earn love through constant accommodation, I had taught my family that my needs were optional. The greatest lesson I learned wasn't that my family was capable of change, though that was reassuring. It was that I was worthy of respect simply because I existed. Not because of what I could provide or how much I sacrificed. Sometimes the strongest family bonds come not from endless giving, but from honest exchanges where everyone's needs matter equally. In standing up for myself, I didn't damage my family relationships. I created the possibility for more authentic ones. So I ask you, watching this, are there relationships in your life where you've been accepting less than you deserve? Have you been sleeping on the metaphorical pull-out couch while others take the bedrooms? Maybe it's time to recognize your worth and ask for better. Because in my experience, true connection can only happen when everyone has a room at the table, or in my case, a proper bedroom at the lake house. If my story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of personal growth and family dynamics. Drop a comment below sharing your own experiences with family vacation drama or setting boundaries. Remember to share this video with someone who might need to hear this message. Thank you for listening, and remember, you deserve a real bed, both literally and figuratively, in all your relationships.